Hi, everybody. I'm super grateful to share this beautiful topic with you, which is the big changes that a woman goes through in the third stage of her life when she moves from, um, child to maiden to mother to crone. So the power years, really, in a woman's life. That is really a natural and beautiful part of a woman, a birthright, and has been distorted in our society as a female problem and exploited by the pharma industry. And I would like to share from a more esoteric point of view, from a tantric point of view, how beautiful this stage is, and offer you some solutions or explorations, possibilities to experience this stage in an empowered and juicy and alive way. So the whole understanding when you take a holistic practice like Tantra is that our body really naturally knows how to maximize its own vitality and succulence. And of course, we're not that natural anymore. We sit a lot, we drive, we're, handling electronics. So energies get stuck in our bodies. Also, we live in a very dysfunctional society. So over the years, all sorts of traumatic experiences accumulate in our bodies because we don't release the emotions properly, because we learn from childhood on to repress our emotions. So we have a lot of funky things in our body. Plus, also in our environment, we have a lot of pollutants, heavy metals, and all these things accumulate in the body. So the older we get, then the problems start showing themselves. So the great thing is, when we stop bleeding, which is really what signifies menopause, is once you have not bled 12 months in a row, you are officially in your menopause. And that is in the average woman around 50. The peri-menopause, the phase before menopause, varies from woman to woman, but starts as early as like 43 and up to 48. So what happens when you don't bleed anymore is also you don't lose any more of your eggs. And everything atrophies and the eggs shrivel, but they still contain a large amount of life force, ovarian chi, we call it in the Taoist tradition. And we can do something really beautiful with this chi. We can learn to, basically what happens naturally is you're not losing the energy downward anymore, outward through your waters. You are able to bring it up. And so that allows you to rise in your consciousness, in your life force energy. When it rises, it brings you to higher states of being. And let's see what I want to tell you guys. It's interesting what happens hormonally, okay? So up until then, we produce a lot of estrogen and oxytocin and progesterone, and these hormones allow us to be really fine-tuned emotionally, and also make us much more focused on pleasing others, taking care of the needs of others, tending to others. And when the estrogen production goes down and the oxytocin along with it, the need to tend to others as a fulfilling experience kind of decreases, and it becomes more an internal journey where my purpose becomes more important. So it's like not so much more at service for the immediate surroundings, but more, what am I here to do on this planet? This is my last stage as a human being. Like, how can I be of service? And we're just not going through these cycles anymore where we get so we have to go through this deep emotional processing, especially the week before we bleed. You know, the women that are listening know you can have bleakness, you can have feel that people are insulting you when there's no insults intended. Of course, the cramps, the PMS, the wanting to withdraw, the not feeling comfortable in one's skin. Really, how I understand it, it's really a time of ceremony, of going inward. For me, it was always the time of my truth serum when I was bleeding. So, as I said, you go from a period of really being focused on other people's needs and creating harmony to a time period where it's less about paying attention to other people's needs and more to help people on a grander scale. So not so much about emotional fixing. So it really is a time of newfound balance. And we're not losing so much time with going through our own ceremonies in our bodies, so we can really take it up a notch, like share our wisdom that we've acquired over our lifetimes for the youth as leaders. So the symptoms that we get are hot flashes, joint pains, anxiety, depression. The sex drive can drop because the testosterone really is the rocket fuel for sex drive, and that goes down. And a vulnerability about my appearance, wrinkles, gaining weight, because this fluctuation in the peri-menopause of our estrogen, like plummeting and surging and up and down, creates this glucose imbalance, and so that makes us crave carbs and sugars. So that makes us even more vulnerable when we've put on some extra pounds. And also, my experience was that my nervous system was really sensitized because I had so much going on emotionally, that my responses were a lot more extreme. And my irritability and my memory would drop out. And that also had to do with not being able to sleep through the night, because I had to more frequently urinate, and I would wake up with night sweats. Well, so I was having all these symptoms, and I wasn't even noticing that it was because I was in perimenopause, because I had never heard of perimenopause before. And so I finally found out about it, and I explored all sorts of different avenues of what I could do. So I do believe in taking in one's own journey, finding one's own truth in Western and Eastern medicine or remedies. And I was curious. A few friends of mine had tried the bioidentical hormones, so I tried them, and I must say they didn't work for me. I felt like, first of all, the idea that I would have to take something for the rest of my life didn't really align with my desire to be as holistic and simplistic as I desire. And I just rather would always go to the actual source, which is for me the elements, fruits and vegetables, plenty of rest, plenty of hydration, rather than something synthetically created. But at that point, I was really having such severe symptoms that I decided to try it out. So I got the bioidentical hormones, and it felt like a Band-Aid. I felt like something was put upon me and it was blocking me from experiencing the natural sequence in my life experience, and I didn't want that to be robbed of me. I wanted to know what's going on in my body. I wanted to learn to trust and gracefully graduate into this new stage. So let's see what else I want to talk about. So I'm going to shortly get into what I did that really changed my life. So, like, first of all, I want to say, if you look at relationships, it's a difficult time. Like, whether with your children or with your girlfriends or with your boyfriends or partners, it's a difficult time because it's an unstable, erratic time. The as I said, the surging and plummeting of the hormones make us really a lot on edge, and it really is a good time to rewrite the agreement that we had when we're in relationships, even if it's an unwritten agreement. For instance, for me, what happened is I couldn't handle strong touch anymore. It needed to be really present and really honoring of where I was at. I needed to be met. So I really had to re-educate my partner on how to touch me. And it required confidence in me that I was allowed to claim that space for my body. But not only that, my body commanded that from me. At that time I did, I started doing de-armoring trainings, and I learned that the word trauma, in general, and people think, oh, that's like a Vietnam vet or something like that. But trauma could even be any experience that kind of allows the body to contract and shock because it's startled, it's triggered. So if you think about stress responses, there's fight or flight or freeze, if you ask me. And so the freeze response would be a contraction in the body. And if you keep on getting exposed to similar patterns regarding a similar trigger, you're going to contract your body over and over again, and there's going to be a holding. So I would say, in general, in intimacy between men and women, women do not receive enough warm-up. There's, having worked with partners, with couples over the years, and with women, and also knowing myself, there's almost a vulnerability to say, I need more time. There's almost a feeling of, of guilt, of I'm being so difficult, especially when you get older and it takes you more time to arouse or to become lubricated. And you're going through the changes in your body and you're putting on a few pounds. It's very difficult to, while you're being intimate and while you're trying to get aroused, to actually say, listen, can you hold me more? I'm not quite ready yet. So it's really learning to become more confident so that the sacred temple, the body, can be tended to in the way that is in one's pleasure, so one can get aroused and the whole dance can become a juicy, beautiful dance. So I definitely guide couples in that process. I help women gain a new confidence, and I help men understand and be more compassionate about the process, because for men, they don't go through these same hormonal shifts. Yes, their testosterone production drops, at one point, but they don't have all these hormonal complex shifts going on anyway. And so for them, it's really foreign. And there has to be an openness to understanding that we're wired different. We have a different operating system. So it's not just a learning process for the woman, it really is also a learning process for the man. So I just want to emphasize there's a lot of things that can be done that really improve how you feel. So for instance, for me, I had to really change my lifestyle. And I'm not so proud to say it because I am a Tantra coach, and I really believe we need to embody what we preach. And when I was starting to go through the peri-menopause, I was having a lot of struggles. I was feeling burnt out with my work. I was dropping into scarcity consciousness. I'm a single mother. I had to be, the sole provider for my twin girls. And I felt a lot of pressure. And although in my sessions, I would be very present and do my best and channel spirit and share my knowledge, on a personal level, I was feeling I couldn't take the break that I needed to be present for the changes that were happening in my life. And so what happened was I slept a lot. If you ask my daughters, they'd say, "Mom, you're always tired." So that was a very difficult phase. And it went on, it was sneaky. And I also really losing my joie de vivre, my joy, my life, joy of life. I was losing that. And that went on, it was sneaking up on me. And it's that's the thing with hormones. You don't really necessarily notice it. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what happened? And so I remember a few years ago, I had stopped exercising and my eating was so. Like, I would say I eat pretty healthy, but you kind of have to, like you can eat organic and, but if there's too many carbs and too much sugar, too much of these yin foods, and you're already feeling yin, it's going to bring you down. So there's a lot you can do with right eating choices. So one day I kind of had this aha moment where I was like, I need to start doing exercise. And I got back into yoga, which I had been doing, by the way, on and off since I was a teenager. But with this exhaustion that happened because I wasn't getting enough sleep at night, I had stopped. So enough is enough, I said, and I started doing Pilates. And Pilates was a game changer for me because it strengthens the core. And the atrophy that happens in the sexual center creates leakages when you sneeze, frequent urination. And that stopped with Pilates. And then I also combine it with yoga, which of course is so in alignment with Tantra. It actually comes from the same lineage, really, Tantra and yoga. So Tantra is the oneness with the other, with the elements, with every aspect of life. And yoga is the oneness within oneself and the universe. So yoga is a really good practice because it brings you in the body. It allows you to focus on your breath. When I do yoga, I feel my temple is being cleaned and realigned and honored. And they also say that yoga, if you could imagine that there's a sacred geometric web in the universe, yoga, the different asanas, the postures align you with the sacred geometry of the web. So it's a really helpful practice. So first I started doing Pilates and yoga. And most recently I started running again because all the studios closed because of COVID. And that's been good too, to bring my, cholesterol levels down, and just cardio to strengthen the heart. All these things are really important. And I want to stress to not be dogmatic about it. If you're not doing any exercise because you're tired, start small and then work yourself up to like 4 days a week. That's already amazing. If you can do 4 days a week of exercise, and 1 week you can get better or not, but just like don't. And if it's like 3 days because you had like a really busy week, that's already amazing. And then just like trick yourself and do walks. And I live by the ocean, so I can go for a swim. Those things are really important. So exercise. I can't stress it enough. It's so important because gravity's a bitch and takes us down, and exercise is like going against the resistance, and it brings us back up. Another thing that's very, very important is hydration. And that said, where's my drink? I'm going to take a sip. So I'm really lucky with my skin. I get a lot of compliments. And I think it has to do with hydration, genes, lucky, thank you, Grandma, but also because it's the collagen production, and also the nutrition. And also being in nature and breathing. So all these different components play a role. So please stay hydrated, and also pay attention to the water that you drink. So, if you can afford a Kogan $5,000 water filter, that's amazing. It takes out all that stuff and remineralizes your water, because we have a problem. We don't have enough minerals in the soils and the waters. But even if you get a normal water filter that's less expensive, but that gets out the fluoride and the chlorine and the heavy metals, it's really, I really advise you to invest in that for prevention, health prevention. So food, okay. It's a balance. Okay. So, first of all, I really recommend Ayurveda, and I can't go into all that in this talk, but you can find out what your type is. Like if you're Pitta, it's very fiery and wiry, or Vata is very airy, and Earth, Kapha, is very grounded. And so when we're out of balance, usually we're mixtures of types, and when we're out of balance, we can compensate it with certain foods that have certain properties. So that's definitely something to look into. But in general, the less processed, the more homegrown and organic it is, the better. The more it's closer to the plant, the better. The more alive it is, the better. Just common sense, because there's more life force in it, right? So the less cooked, the better. And also, the less we eat, the better. It's not so great if you think of us like a motor, you don't want to put too much work into that. So I also want to really recommend supplements, because unfortunately, our soils are so depleted that we now don't even get the nutrients from our homegrown vegetables and fruits that we used to get. So nutrient supplements are really a key. And also there's all sorts of supplements that you can take, from collagen to um, uh, natural growth hormones, stuff like that. For women, donkai, ashwagandha, black cohosh. I want to say I'm throwing general stuff at you, but it really is a journey of exploration that it depends on you. Look at your health, look at your lifestyle, look at your genes, and find your truth. I had to find my truth that bioidentical hormones did not work for me. My mother, for instance, she's in her 70s. She takes hormones because she says that the symptoms are just so horrific when she doesn't take them. And she's also has a much more sensitive nervous system than me. And she's also much more old school. She's a baby boomer, and she's more willing to take pharma stuff than me. I don't want to take anything from the pharma industry. I don't believe in it unless it's a must. I do take something if it's really important. I will. But as much as I can avoid it, I will. So, let me see what else I want to talk about. So a real game changer for me in this whole experience of perimenopause that I'm still in. I'm in menopause now. I have not bled for 6 months. So by 12 months, I'll be officially in menopause. So I'm still in perimenopause, but the game changer was this. This is a jade yoni egg. And so basically it has holes, and you enter a string. You can use clean dental floss that you replace every time. And it's a crystal, and when you work with it, you can release these blocks that I was talking about earlier that we accumulate in our body, and a lot of them in our genitals, in our yoni, our a sacred sex center, feminine sex center, female sex center. We can really clear out a lot of blockages with this yoni egg, and also we can create more dexterity and suppleness, and also juiciness, and we can reawaken the yoni. So for me, for instance, my yoni started shutting down. And also I'm not in a traditional relationship. So I didn't have like a lot of lovemaking. So, and then when I was going through that whole burnt out phase, I wasn't really very sexually active. And so I was kind of shutting down. And this helped me. I also must say that I took de-armoring sessions, and that really, really helped me. And that's why I love it so much. I've studied it. I practice it. I help people. I de-armor their sex center, their whole bodies. Actually, for me, it's the whole temple. There's no specific area, and it's not specifically necessarily the genitals. It could be somewhere else that the energy is blocked often. Okay, so but this is really helpful in combination with specific jade egg practices. And these are Taoist practices. And for those of you who don't know, Taoist Tantra is a specific lineage from the Far East. Qigong comes from it. And it's like a female qigong practice, you could say, and it has to do with certain visualizations, sending light energy along with it. You have energy flowing through you anyway, but the body kind of tends to shut down more and more the older we get. And what we want to do is we want to work against this decay so that we can stay alive and expansive and rejuvenate ourselves until our very last breath in this body. And so these practices really help you with that. It reawakened me. And so I would encourage you, I'm going to create a Jade Egg online course. There's also others out there. I offer training programs. I offer online coaching sessions and coaching sessions for all these different criteria. So basically how I work is I meet you and I inquire and figure out what's, how I could approach you. I work very intuitively and with my experience, with these years of experience, how I would tend to you. But I'm just saying, I don't know where you're located, but there are tantric practitioners out there that can help you with this. You're not alone, and you can also reach me. And I wish I had known more about it. I learned it myself. So again, learning to transfigure your sexual energy, your vital life force energy through these practices that have to do with breath and visualization. There's all sorts of different techniques that I would go into specifically with you. But in this talk is more to tell you about all these different practices that exist. And then you can either reach out to me or do your own research. Nowadays, so much information is accessible. So I want to talk a little bit about how my arousal energy has shifted, how my desire has shifted, my needs have shifted. So I was just talking about this with a friend the other day because she's also going through menopause or peri-menopause. And so it used to be more physical. I used to, when you have more testosterone, it's more about, it's like, I just want to go and get it. And when you have less, it becomes more subtle, more internal, and really much more tantric for me. I feel more tantric than ever, or should I say in a different way, but more subtle, more energetic. So my orgasm I can have an orgasm and you would be watching me and you wouldn't even really notice that I'm having a really profound energetic experience because I'm more in touch with my energy body and my light body, and I'm moving it, and I'm more connected now to the sensations, the succulence, the sweet sacred nectar, and all that. So I need less friction. I need less stimulation. I need more presence. I need more heartfelt connection. I need more holding space for the emotions that I'm going through, So it's difficult for the male partners also. So I do want to express my compassion for the male partners that are experiencing their partners going through these changes, because they might be used to a certain intimacy, And there might be a mourning that takes place for not having that anymore, for not having that partner that tended to them and took good care of them while they're out there pumping it at work, and so they don't have that maternal presence anymore. All of a sudden they have this woman that wants to be empowered, and it is actually naturally aligned because the male testosterone drops, and so the men become more, there's more of a balance of their masculine and feminine energies than ever in their lives too. So almost like a little bit of an energetic shift between the male and the female. And it's hard for them too, because men have a lot of performance pressure, and when their testosterone level drops, for some of them, it's not that easy to hold an erection. So they're going through that whole transition of frustration, of losing their erection. So it's also helpful to communicate that their performance is not needed, connection is needed. So I feel when both partners can be really comfortable with communicating where they're at, an opening happens, really, and the transition can happen in a more graceful way. So communicating to your male partner that it doesn't matter if they lose their erection. Most likely at one point it will increase again, and unless they have serious ED problems, which again can be really transmuted with Tantra. And that's a whole nother talk that I'll give you another time. But yeah. So basically, back to the transmutation of our energies, I just want to round it up by saying that it is a sacred time. It is an empowered time. It is a beautiful golden time. It's a time of wisdom. It's a time of being able to deeply spiritually connect with our inner landscape, our inner world, our intuition. It's a time to share and reveal the truths that we've come to understand in our lifetimes. And it's a time to share. It's a time of authenticity, and the world needs us to show up in this empowered way with compassion, with love, especially starting with ourselves. And so I'm coming to the end of this talk, and I feel like I did it the wrong way around, but I'm not going to judge myself. So I want to say that underneath everything that I just shared with you, there has to be self-love. And today I woke up, I had some turbulent dreams, and I realized that I want to spend more time appreciating myself. Life is an interesting journey, and for me, and I'm sure for many of you, it didn't necessarily go the way you anticipated, and yet it is beautiful and magical and rich. And I promise the ones that are younger than me then that the longer you stick around, the richer and more abundant it is. And that there's a shift that goes more into receptivity that is just absolutely sublime. And so I just invite you to really spend time in meditation, in contemplation, in dropping in. And that's something that I really learned through my last tantric lover. Thank you, bless you, beautiful brother, is the dropping in component. So when you're exhausted, when you're drained, when you feel burnt out, just taking a break, time out, and resting wherever you are, and just watching the body, and not even falling asleep, just dropping into heart space, maybe putting a hand on the heart and dropping into the breath, and remembering to love yourselves, because you are an amazing spirit. There is nobody else like you. The whole universe rejoices in the presence of you, and after all has brought you through as this unique creation. And so please celebrate you with all the transmutations, transfigurations, changes that you will be going through. You are a bright, shining star, and you are perfect and beautiful and amazing just the way you are. Be excited about this journey. Meet it with wonder, curiosity, and playfulness, and especially humor. Because like Eleanor Roosevelt said, aging ain't for sissies. I love you guys. I hope to see you soon again. Thank you so much, Mario Sanchez, for creating Body Awakeners. You are a beautiful brother. Thank you all for all my co-team for working so vigorously and hard to creating space and consciousness of sexual liberation, of intelligently moving our vital life force energies through us and everything, through heart and intuition and higher intelligence, to create a better, sustainable world. I'm so humbly grateful that I had this opportunity to share this with you. And if you like what I shared, please join us on our weekly Zoom calls, the Body Awakeners. Find all the information in this link below. Reach out to me if you want to have a private session with me, if you resonate with me, or even if you just have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. Take care.